I'll let you take it away from here.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I'm working on the road today. So apologies for any background noise that y'all are going to hear throughout this meeting, but welcome to our first Training Director Roundtable for 2026. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Mary Pearl. As mentioned in the emails and the next slide too, and here on this next slide, we are recording this meeting and we'll be posting it to the Naturalist News page, likely by tomorrow. So for anyone that wasn't able to attend today and wants to watch the recording back, or there's someone who wants to reference it back, you can go to that Naturalist News page and find it there. Mary Pearl, I'm not seeing the next slide. I see housekeeping still. Is that just me though?
That was the next slide, and then here's the next one for you.
Okay, there we go. And then just as a reminder, our next roundtable will be in person at the annual meeting. So the time and day to be announced, but that will also be recorded and added to the website. And this time I'll make sure that I have my sound settings correct, so the sound is on the recording. So this time it will actually be available as a recording afterwards. Mark my words, we'll make sure. As Mary Pearl mentioned, if anyone is wanting to take notes, then feel free to do so and send those to us after the fact, and we'll add that to that same Naturalist News page as well. And then the next slide. I saw one come in actually a few minutes before we started this, but thank you to those who have filled out the training director survey. I think we had one come in like Thursday or Friday that I haven't gotten added to the website yet either. So if you are already planning your fall training and have those dates, feel free to go ahead and put those in there. Or if you just want a record of when you had your spring dates available on the state website, feel free to go ahead and put in those spring dates, even if they have passed. That's just a good way for people who are trying to find their chapter and when their training is to know when to maybe expect it for next year. So if you haven't filled it out and want to, please do so. And I'll drop that link in the chat as well. And then for the next slide, just some, again, general TMN Tuesday commonly asked questions. We sometimes cover this in the president's meetings, but this, as training directors, this will probably be something that y'all get asked as well. So the 2026 TMN Tuesdays are available for advanced training hours for trainees, and they are able to, either watch those live or watch the recordings in 2026 and get those advanced training hours. But note that second bullet, the previous year's TMN Tuesday webinars are not available for advanced training this year. So they go by calendar year. So once we hit 2027, all these 2026 webinars will no longer count as advanced training. So just make sure people know that. We do have all of the backlog for previous years as a reference and a resource for y'all. So if someone wanted to go back and watch maybe say the Roadrunner TMN Tuesday from last year, they can, they just cannot count it as advanced training. How long after you watch your TMN Tuesday can you log your AT? We follow that same 45-day rule. And will the events be recorded? Yes, they're always recorded and added to that TMN Tuesday page. You can use that QR code to find it there. And do you need to register each month? Yes, but you can register in bulk. At the top of that TMN Tuesday page is a button where you can register for all of them in one big go. You will notice that October is missing. Again, that's because we're doing that live from the annual meeting. So we don't have a date or time for that just yet. So that one will be a little more separated from the other registrations, but otherwise, people are able to register for all of the upcoming TMN Tuesdays in one fell swoop. And then for the next slide, I believe that was all the housekeeping. Yes. So for the questions we have today, it's a combination at the end of that 2024 training survey that we did. We asked if people had any additional questions, and we're still pulling from some of those additional questions that people had. This also includes a couple of questions from our last round tables that just came up during discussion, as well as some questions that training directors have sent in asking, hey, could we discuss this in one of the upcoming roundtables? So kind of a nice variety today. Any that we don't get to today, we'll just roll over and discuss at that annual meeting one. So for the first question. This one is very pertinent for anyone who's been a training director a couple years in a row, but also for anyone who, maybe is in the middle or about to wrap up their first year as a training director, to just talk about some lessons learned. So what was a lesson learned during your trainings this year or last year? And was there anything that you think other chapters would find beneficial to know or to implement? And feel free to unmute and discuss, or to drop some discussions in the chat. And it can be something very specific, something a little more general, just whatever comes to mind first.
I can share that this year in the budget, we started doing a cost per student, and that hadn't been done before. And I think it's going to be helpful as the years move on. I don't know if it would be helpful to other chapters or not.
How are you calculating that cost per student?
I take the registration fee and then add up the books, the field trip costs, which some of them do cost, and then divide it by the number of students. It's pretty simple budgeting, but at least it's something.
Mm-hmm. Is it below or an average to what your training cost fee is for the class? Or are you setting the training class fee based off of that?
This is the first year it's ever been done. To my knowledge, I'm new at this. I'm the first year. And when I presented it and asked what previous years were, it was kind of we don't know. So I do think it's an interesting number to have, because once you go over it, then it's going to cost the chapter money, and there's that.
Interesting.
We do the same in Big Country, and we kind of look at all the costs that we might incur throughout the training course. We kind of build in 2 for snacks and the speaker fees, traveling. We've even included a shirt in the budget. We kind of create the budget around that. And then we also find out what our minimum needs to be in order to have a class without it costing.
I wonder if there's a resource need here. So we're always at the state level looking at ways that we can provide some of this connectivity between chapters with resources that kind of help to share tips and tricks. And so I wonder if developing a template budget for training classes would be of value, kind of crowdsourcing from those of y'all that spoke up, or those that currently have a training class budget template or spreadsheet built so far, and putting something like that together and providing that on our website.
I'd be happy to send you mine.
Okay, please send everything to Hannah, and she'll get it organized.
So back to the original question. This is Gene from down in Galveston Bay area. Yeah. We every other year, check this out, in even numbered years, we have evening classes. Did you see what I did there? Evening year, even. Okay, never mind. Anyway, we have evening classes. When we do evening classes, we have people coming from work. They're coming from keeping up with their kids. They're coming from keeping up with their parents, whatever it is. But we run from 6 to 9. And that's right in the middle of the meal. And rather than have them go from work to go make a sandwich or bring a sandwich they made 15 hours earlier, whatever that is, this year we just took part of the budget and allocated it to buying them some decent food. Now, it's their money, right? Our budget's pretty close, and we may go under a year by a few $100 or over by a few $100. But in a $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 budget, we could afford just to buy some small sandwiches. And I think it's been very effective, because instead of just feeding them candy bars and cookies and whatever somebody had in their pantry that wasn't completely eaten up, buying food gets these people there, gets them interested. They grab their stuff, they sit down, and they go to work. So that's one thing that we have done this year, and that was a deliberate change, and I think it's successful.
Related to that, we divvy up our class, and people bring food, like 3 members per month bring a food, and it's a beautiful buffet. I mean, every month it's just a lot of food. So you can get them to contribute if you chose to.
Yes, and it's definitely helpful to feed them, especially when it's night classes, like you said. Definitely helpful. We usually start ours ahead of the meeting. So like you said, they come straight from work, they can eat, and then we'll start the training.
We kind of have a
Nice.
networking community time first and then jump into stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
I saw a hand raised. I think, was it Vanessa? You still had something to say.
There we go. I'm unmuted. Mine was not budget related, but something that we do that is very helpful is we have a sign up genius for every session. And we have a host, a co-host, a floater, and then someone from the training team. And so they're responsible for everything soup to nuts for that session that they signed up for. So coordinating with the speakers for like a Zoom class, or if there's any slides, anything that needs to be brought to the field trip location as far as technology, like a laptop or a projector, lunches for the speakers, anything that needs to be done, those are the people, the team that handles it. So it's not the training class director that's doing this for every session. It's all divvied out.
Very nice. And then Nancy, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, so in the past, what we've done, we have an application, and in that we mention the listing of subjects, topics that we will cover during our training session, right? And we reference TMN curriculum, and that they're going to follow what's in the curriculum, but they don't actually get to see it until after they've been accepted into the class, and then they've paid their fee, and then we give them their book. So we've had, just within the past few years, each year, a couple of instances where people seemed surprised that we would be covering adaptations, over time, evolution, the age of the earth, climate change, these things that we just had some instances where people were like, well, if I knew you were going to be covering this, I wouldn't have done class. So we're trying to figure out a way to communicate a little more about what will be covered, before they actually get the textbook. That's what we're working on.
Nancy, yeah, one great resource that I would point you to, and I'll drop the link here in the chat in just a second, is on our website, our curriculum page. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, I do feel like it gets lost sometimes as a resource because it's all the way at the bottom of the curriculum page. There is actually all of the goals and objectives from every unit of the curriculum is listed there. So, in the beginning of your book, and at the beginning of each unit, there's those. At the end of this unit, you will learn how to blah, 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 those 4 or 5 bullets. That we copied that onto the website so that was something. Look, Hannah's got the link already in there. If you go there, you'll be able to kind of pull out some of those themes of each of the units. I'll also say in our CMOP, I believe it is, CMOP or bylaws, there's a summary of
CMOP.
the learning objectives. Which one is it, Michelle?
It's the CMOP.
CMOP. There is a learning objectives for the training curriculum as well that I think is a great resource to include into your training class advertisement and recruitment strategies. Here's the content that you'll be learning as a whole when you get into this program.
Okay. And then I see in the chat, Bernice said that they raised their training fee this year to cover the cost of materials for orientation and to cover cost of name, badge, and members certify. And they're fortunate their training class have no fees for presenters with field experiences. They conduct all their trainings on Saturdays because they have trainings that drive from other towns because their chapter covers 26 counties. All right, any other input on this general lessons learned question before we move on? Terry just said we've had a small meet and greet with possible trainees, and we chose a panel of existing members to discuss what we're about. It was fantastic. That's great.
I just have one more thing to add on that topic, and that when I sent this, Mary with the Hayes County chapter, sorry, when we send out our notice to the trainees that they've been accepted into the program, they're also assigned a mentor. It is the mentor's responsibility to reach out to them before class starts. And if they want their textbook early, they can have their textbook. Can pay their tuition early before class. We kind of use that as a social time to get people up to speed and to answer questions before class number 1.
I have just a question. We had a lot of no-shows this year, and I'm wondering how many chapters take the registration money upon the application and then refund it if they don't show up. If that makes sense.
We have a $25 application fee, which is not refundable. And then when they're accepted into the program, I assume when they pay their full balance of tuition, they're going to show up to class. But we've had a few people that for attrition drop out early, and we've given them the option to refund or donate that money to the chapter.
We haven't had any dropouts. That's not the right word. Whatever, no shows lately. But in those years that we have, it was usually far enough along that we just offered them the opportunity to come back next year at no charge.
We did a similar thing. We had a couple people that dropped out fairly late in the game, and they have come back and finished. That's worked really well for us.
I see Belinda in the chat says their fee is paid with registration. Kay said same with us. And then Rosalia said in training Pecos, we allowed one trainee to come back to the next training session at no charge too. All right, Mary Pearl, if you could go to the next slide. Oh, this already is the next slide. Perfect. Which kind of was touched on with what we were discussing previously, but do you have a formal training for your training class mentors, and how do you keep the mentors and mentees engaged with each other? This is a question that came from a chapter that I'm now blanking on who it came from, but this is a relevant topic for one of our chapters. So for anyone who has a very successful program for their mentors and mentees, if you could talk about kind of how you train them and keep them engaged.
We don't have an official like mentor program yet. I'm the advisor, the program assistant in Taylor County for Big Country, and I work with both Master Gardeners and Master Naturalists. And we started kind of a mentor thing with Master Gardeners, but it was just a communication only because we found it difficult for like the members to want to be at the trainings. And so what we've done for Master Naturalists is we'll just mix up the seating every 2 weeks or so they get to meet a new member. And so it's not like the entire class, we just kind of mingle everybody and try to get them introduced to someone new, just so they can meet as many of the members as possible throughout the training and not stick with one buddy that they've met in the new class. And that seemed to help. They do eventually pick a little friendship, towards the end that you notice, but it has helped them meet more people and try to feel more part of the group.
Well, and we've kind of done something similar. We've got a person on my training committee that's kind of in charge of scheduling people to come in and do that. And so not only do they bring snacks in, but they also engage with the class members during the training class itself and go on field trips with us and stuff. And that gives an opportunity for the new members to meet more chapter members and learn more engagement and some of the different options available. That works better for us than having that single mentor-mentee thing from the beginning. because that didn't always work out for us.
I'm gonna read a few. Oh, go on. Whoever started talking.
I think it was me. I'm not sure.
think so.
My training team is pretty large. I have subcommittees on the training team. One subcommittee handles speakers, and one does site visits, and one does registration. But what I'm getting at is that I have a large training team, and every member of the training team gets assigned 1 to 2, sometimes 3 trainees that they are the mentors for. I have a written guideline for the mentors. And we just kind of go over that loosely before class starts up. Most of my team is pretty seasoned, so I haven't needed to do retraining. And if there is new people on the team, there's always a buddy on the training team that will kind of show them along the way. If it happens that the personalities don't mix for the mentor and the trainee, then as training director, I'm always the backup for them and make sure that they have all the information and hand holding that they need.
I'm gonna read some of the comments in the chat real quick. Vanessa from Coastal Prairie said yes, that they do a formal mentor program with training. Amy said our mentors show up for classes so their mentees are able to talk with them in person. No training, however. I think creating a list of expectations and responsibilities is a good idea. Nancy said, Nancy said, we group the trainings into pods with 2 guides from the training committee, and they sit together as a pod for each class. Rosalia said that Transmakers doesn't have an official mentor program either. We offer ourselves as mentors and make ourselves available for trainings for any guidance, and that we involve the president, vice president, and training director. Jean said no formal training. Most of our mentors return year to year, so they get it. And when new mentors sign on, they were mentored and they were on the receiving end and draw on that experience. And the mentors are always invited to attend the classes and field trips. Nancy said that the training is not formal, but is an hour Zoom about adult learners. Very nice. Kara said we have a mentor training this year. We switched to mentor teams instead of one-on-one. We'll go back to that one from Margaret. Let's see. Dean said that mentors are specifically invited to participate in the first class and the last class. And they take mentor training photos at graduation, etc. So for those who do have those kind of seasoned mentors, for a chapter that maybe doesn't have as many seasoned mentors, what are some aspects that you've seen work really well for kind of giving them that training that they might need? I know Dean mentioned that they pull from, the newbies might pull from their experience being a mentee. But what are some other ways that you've seen those mentors be really able to fill in that role?
We have a mentor coordinator on the team who each week, I guess Sunday night before our Thursday night class, she'll collect all the notes and say, hey, here's what you guys are going to be doing this week. Here's where we're going to meet. Here's what you need to wear. Here's what you need to bring. And that's been kind of that memo or that email that goes out each week over 11 weeks has evolved over years. So, it kind of, in our case, it's evolutionary. It's just been around, but that's how we get the word out. And we also kind of not control, but we hope that each mentor is delivering the same level and the same type of each information each week, whether it's email or whether it's a phone call or whatever, they have a guide to go by.
And there, Paul dropped it in the chat, but I was about to ask that too. If we were at the state level to collect more detailed information about each chapter's mentor training program to create a mentor training guide, would that be something that would be beneficial to y'all?
There
And
is a mentor guide, if you will, in the CMOP already as an appendix.
But
So
more-
anything that we can add.
yeah, anything to add to that.
No.
And yes, anyone who's saying that they have things that they can share, feel free to email those to me. If you don't have my email, go to our website and the contact us page and scroll down and you'll see it on there. Nice. I think let's go ahead and move on to the next question. And I'll pull the chat as well and add that to the slides so we can see, again, some of those topics that people have talked about. So this was another one that came from a training director. What have you found to be the most effective way to advertise your training? Did you try any new communication avenues this year? And if so, what was the result? And some additional context with this is they're hoping to try and reach people they haven't reached so far, and they're wondering how to do that and the best way to go about that. So if anyone has any advice for that.
So we instituted a Slack channel this year. Some of the responses I had from the younger trainees was that they don't read my emails. So I was quite distressed. And after watching the TMN Tuesday in March, I was inspired to try some different avenues to find out what type of communication people want. So we started a Slack channel, and the class has its own thread, and so they can all of my emails will get copied to the thread. In addition, they can bounce questions back and forth. I think that's the newest thing that we added this year was the Slack channel, but we constantly pull the membership and say, what kind of communication do you need? Because as a boomer, I'm like, oh, I'm not communicating well with the younger folks. So we're trying to use a multi-system format to get information to them.
Amy in the chat mentioned that they're going to survey. I thought you already had the survey. I was going to ask you what some of the results are. But they're going to survey their class this year to find out how they learned about the opportunity as they have a lot of younger folks coming in.
We did a survey as part of our application to find out how people heard about us, and predominantly, well, I would guess 3 groups from our booths that we had set up at various events, from looking online for Texas Master Naturalists, and then from word of mouth from another member or somebody in their Master Gardener group or something like that. But that was one of our questions in our application so that we could kind of gauge that a little bit this year.
We get a lot of ours in Big Country, Abilene area, through Facebook, unfortunately. But we've also, our farm show is pretty well attended here, and we get a sign up list going from that. We'll send out a constant contact advertising the training. So we found that like our 2 big events that we have are our biggest draw to get emails for interested people. And then we'll just kind of communicate the update of the training classes once they're set and the dates and the application deadline, and send it out that way. So, but most of it's Facebook advertising. We've done a sponsored post here and there to kind of reach others that aren't followers. We've even posted on the Nextdoor app, although I can't say anyone said they saw it. But we also post at our libraries, and our state park advertises for us there on their boards.
In the chat, I'm seeing Kara said that they have found that most people hear about it through word of mouth. Nancy kind of agreed, said most already knew someone in the chapter, met a member at a volunteer event, and a few saw them on social media. Bernice said that social media seems to be the most popular way to advertise. And they use the chapter Facebook page and Instagrams. And doing that the last 2 years have been successful, as well as word of mouth being very successful. And in the past, they've also printed flyers and added them to businesses, but haven't found that a lot of attention is paid to those. Erica said they use Discord instead of Slack. I saw someone above say they used GroupMe, so a lot of those kind of more text style discussion boards. Jean says that they have a years-long waiting list. Probably half a dozen add their name each month. And as many as 60 turn out for their meet and greet. They usually self-select and we end up with 25 to 30 applicants. Vanessa said they advertise informally and they do outreach and then also on Facebook. A lot of people are mentioning interest forms. And that definitely is a good way to, get their email, get their contact, kind of keep them in the loop. So that maybe when they are ready to officially join, they have that knowledge and ability to. So that's very good. Word of mouth, outreach events, newspaper articles, and then flyers posted around town and Facebook. Other local groups like Master Gardeners. A lot of discussion about it being word of mouth and outreach tables being a great way to advertise, which statistically word of mouth is still the most effective form of communication. So that does track with what a lot of people say. All right, any other comments on best ways you found to advertise before we move on?
I want to make a comment. It's not necessarily answering that question. One reason that every year we think about, should we run an ad? Should we advertise? Should we go out and really drum up some people? But we don't want to create an expectation they can get in when we're already full because we just have so many people waiting. But we turn that around by virtue of word of mouth, by virtue of people in the Master Gardeners. We don't get a whole lot of any kind of diversity. Okay, I don't want to get into what kinds of diversity there are. But not everybody. It seems a lot of us look like us. So I really wish we could, and I've been trying to figure out how do we actually reach out to different populations or different communities to get a broader representation of the community, and then somehow work them into the folks who are self-selecting to be in our group. So I like the idea of advertising. I'd like to be some publication. I'd like to go draw in different kinds of folks. I don't mean kinds, but just different people. But we're trying to work that out with how much training can we really afford to do? If you start doing multiple classes per year, at least for us, we get burnout on the trainer side. So it's a challenge.
I remember someone at one of the previous roundtables mentioned that they've started doing outreach events kind of in those areas and locations of the people they are trying to get. So like they're trying to get more younger people, like students and stuff. And so they were going to more colleges. I don't remember who that chapter was. If y'all are on, was it successful? And can anyone think of any other ways that they're trying to do the same thing? And have you seen any success with that?
That might have been Hayes County. We found the same thing was true, that our membership didn't look like the demographic of our county. So we did a lot of outreach events at Texas State. We have, I'm proud to say, a much younger population diversity now. We still haven't achieved the racial diversity that we would like, but we are getting a better mix of age groups, which again, that requires a whole different communication style. So there's all kinds of angles to that.
Nancy made a good point in the chat of the pictures that you post. I'm trying to highlight all of the different libraries and members that you might already have to show that the chapter does have some of that diversity in it. Any other comments on that? Okay, moving on. Um, what specific success stories or examples do you have of field sessions that have been very effective in teaching the required material from the textbook? So any field session success stories?
Hello, this is Melanie Hollinshead from the Cradle of Texas chapter in Brazoria County. We're just south of Houston. One of the field sessions that we found very helpful is a night hunt. We call it a critter hunt. And we have everybody show up with flashlights or headlights, and people see a completely different world at night than what they see during the day. We see animals that are nocturnal. It's just a completely different focus. And that's where I've often seen some of our interns start turning into naturalists. They're beginning to look at the trees instead of the forest. They're beginning to notice smaller things. And it's just a hoot to watch them as they're developing. So we've continued doing the night hunt at least once in each of our sessions.
Which units in the textbook do y'all, or unit do y'all tie that back to?
Usually I don't tie it to a specific one. It works well for entomology. It works well for herpetology. Birds usually aren't all that common, although we do run into a few. It definitely links to mammals because you'll see possums and raccoons and a variety of nighttime animals. So it's kind of a general hunt.
We do kind of a nature hikes or plant IDs out at the state park. We've also done our ornithology out there as well, and have kind of hiked out to the bird blind that's out there. And we'll have different speakers. And we also have another lake that's actually in town where we've had one of the professors meet us out there and do a plant ID out there, and they'll see bugs too. So it's neat to think about like an entomology. That would be good as well. But right now it's just like the plant ID and plant hikes.
We tend to do like an hour or so, maybe two of a subject lecture. And then shortly after that, we try to have our classes in certain locations that sell into whatever that topic is. And then we'll go out and do a or go do a mycology walk. We do a couple ones that are totally separate. We do a geology walk that's totally separate. And this year we added going to look at the bats and see how the bats are being studied up in Huntsville.
I'll read a few from the chat real quick. Terry said their forest ecology is all in a local arboretum, and so they do a lot of walking in the forest. Amy said that they go to Bamberger Ranch specifically for grassland ecology. However, there are bats, birds, mammals, restoration success out there as well, so it's very impactful. Any other comments before we move to the next question?
When you were talking about an entomology hike, we use Pond Life, which is part of our Discovery Environmental Education program for school children. And we spend quite a bit of time going out to a slough, which is just basically a slow moving river, and use dip nets and bring up the creatures that are in there. The interns get to see what a dragonfly looks like most of its life. They get to find out what mayflies look like. There's a variety of different insects that are in the water. And then by identifying what's there, you can use that to identify what kind of water quality you have, whether you have runoff that's causing it to be badly polluted, or whether you have a fairly pristine area. And most of them really enjoy this. And we do it at the Brazoria National Wildlife Refuge. By the time they've gotten through, they've run into some of the freshwater crustaceans. They've run into leeches, which is always fun. I had one on my thumb one day, and I had to explain to them it was much too small to go through my skin, and you just pull it off, and it was no problem. But some of them were freaking out when they first saw it. But that has been a very successful way of not only talking about entomology, but also adding it to water quality. And it helps people to make connections when they experience something like that.
A couple more things in the chat. Kimberly said that they did an entomology field trip last fall and had a lot of nets in their storage units that they used to catch insects. And they had some members who were really good at insect ID, and that the trainees had a blast. And then Rosalia said that they have a lot of field trips in the Tuolumne Desert nightlife, and the trainees like that a lot. Perfect. All right, so the next question is again another kind of general question, and I've seen some questions pop up in this chat in the chat. So maybe people who have put those in there can ask these now. But what are some of your biggest challenges so far this year, and what are some ways you have tried to or successfully overcome them?
One of our challenges, at least in the big country, is just retention. And we don't have a solution to overcome that. We don't know exactly what the problem is. We have not done a poll for like Master Naturalists, but as far as the class, we usually have under 20 participate, and we'll have maybe about 50 to 60% stay at least through the first year. I haven't done numbers for like, second year, third year, fourth year. The ones that do stay, of course, are great, but we just wish the number was a little bit higher, especially when you're losing current members. You're kind of just barely staying ahead of it as far as who you're adding versus who you're losing. So if anyone has suggestions on that, that would be wonderful.
Does anyone have anything to add to that?
I would like
And from the-
Melanie again.
Oops,
Go ahead.
for Margaret
From
or Melanie? Who's to go ahead?
Go ahead, Margaret. Let's give you an opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put my video on, I think. So I'm new and I'm with another new person this year down in Midcoast. We're I believe a 5-county region. And we're very much struggling as our field trips all depend on a set of ambassadors. And does anyone else have that kind of system? What I think we're needing is ambassador training. We have seasoned veterans that pull things off, like we had a great ambassador for Welder Wildlife, and we did upland ecology, and that went off without a hitch. We're doing Fantasy this weekend, and that's Riverine and Riparian, and those are seasoned veterans, but they're quitting. This is their last year. Every other field trip we have had, we have new, so we're new training directors and our ambassadors are new, and it is not, we're just fixing things all the time, and it's the most stressful job I've ever had. And we're struggling, and we would love to have some kind of, like, do we need to train our ambassadors? What can we do different so that we aren't struggling? Because we're just like flabbergasted that the job's this hard.
This is about your field trips, right?
Yes, it's about the field trips. We can get the Zooms done relatively
Yep.
well. We do 2-hour Zooms and then about 6 hours for field trips on every session. And so the field trips were like, I had a major guy not show up because the ambassador forgot to email him, and they had emailed everybody else, and we're just falling apart. It feels like.
Maybe I'm missing something. What's an ambassador? That's not a term we use.
Okay.
I was going to ask the same question.
Thank you, Michelle.
So basically, for example, when we did Welder, the ambassador was our group member, our group members, who actually coordinated with Welder Wildlife, made the curriculum happen.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so
Okay, so to sum that up, you have a multitude of people dealing with each location that you're going to, right? And that may or may not be on your training committee, but it's not the training class coordinator that's coordinating that.
right, and we don't really have a committee. We have two individuals who really were new. We admittedly we don't know what we're doing, and and
you know what you're doing. You're doing fine. Let me just throw some stuff
Okay,
out,
thank
and maybe this may or may not be that will work, but our field trips, and it depends again whether they're doing evening classes or day classes. They're totally different. But in our evening classes, we have dedicated 4 or 5 field trips each year. We make sure those field trips are to places who are desperately in need of our volunteers. Okay. They never let us down because they know that we are the source of their volunteers. That may not be the problem you have, but Arm Bound Nature Center, Galveston Bay Found, well, all these places, they're waiting for us to come so they can advertise themselves. Now, to get us there, okay, now that may be the issue. To get us there, yeah, there takes a few people. We need mentors. We need this large network to be sure that our class members know where to go, how to get there, carpool, whatever it is, ride the ferry to get to Highland. Now that takes a village to make that happen, but we're lucky in that we have folks who never want to be the directors. They want to do year after year. They want to be the greeter coordinator or the mentor coordinator or the photographer coordinator. So we have we have folks who come back. Now, yes, one day they're going to leave us one way or the other. And hopefully we've got a network big enough that somebody can fill in right behind them. But that's all I can help you with. Is that useful at all?
What I think from listening to the other what you said, and I think there's some others that have talked about, like, they have committees, and the committees we need. This is not a 2-person.
And a committee leader, like a training director.
This is not a 2-person job
with a committee
Yeah.
to support everything.
Okay.
I do nothing.
I mean, this is entirely part of our CMOP, and this is addressed in our bylaws.
Yeah.
This is a bylaws item to have a training class director with a committee, and it is addressed in the CMOP. So the structure is there.
Okay. So I didn't know there was a CMOP. So I got drafted into this because anyway, so I will look at CMOP and I will see, because I feel like, I mean, I really want to quit, but I really feel like I need to go to our board and say, hey, there's a CMOP. It says this. I need help doing this. I mean, does that sound valid? Yes.
So, my question is more so how are we missing your chapter? How are we where is the miscommunication happening with your chapter? Because not only is all this addressed in the bylaw, I mean, it's addressed across all of our documents for your chapter, which your chapter is has implemented this year already. So it's addressed in our bylaws, it's addressed in our CMOP, it's addressed in the chapter operating handbook. Like, these duties are addressed and covered by all of the chairpersons and positions and board positions within your chapter. So my question maybe back to you is, where is and this is stuff that has been in this isn't new. It's been
it's not
in
new.
place for the program since its beginning. And so how are we missing that communication?
I
with your
don't
chapter?
know. The other director and I feel like we were thrown to the wolves. And we have a great chapter. The training program is so good, but we are so I need to
Okay.
regroup.
Well, let's maybe
I've taken
sure.
enough
And,
time.
our state team can regroup with you.
Okay.
And maybe we set a time offline with
Yeah,
you to
taking enough.
do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I don't think that the issue Margaret was talking about is an isolated issue. I'm wondering, we're talking about there's mentor training somewhere. Is there president training and vice president training and all that?
There's not currently a real training for presidents and vice presidents and all of the board positions. I mean, we have processes and duties written up across those documents that we mentioned. We have been talking about at our state level, state program office level, offering some type of I don't know that it's training, that it is a level of training that we've been talking about. So kind of a new year startup, new president, new to your role, process and meetings that we've been talking about. We don't have that yet. We also have our president's meetings each month that your chapter president should be invited to. If they're not on that list yet, let us know. We can get them on that list. We pull our list from VMS. So if the information wasn't and hasn't been updated in VMS, that is probably the first place we need to work with your chapter on.
Margaret, this is Melanie from Cradle of Texas chapter. We are next to each other, and I had the opportunity to work under the previous training director for 6 months or so to kind of get a good feel of what was going on. And I had been on the training team for 3 years before that. So it made it easier, but it is always difficult to be the new training director. You're going to hit a lot of obstacles, but if you would like to team up with me, I'd be willing to share everything I've learned so far with 3 years of it. And, if need be, we can do some meetings and meet up in person. So I'll make you that offer if you're interested.
Thank you. Thank you. I will take you up on that, because that's just so kind. Thank you so much.
I have to add, when I first got to Big Country, it was a little overwhelming just because our county, I was new to the county, and my ag agent had never had a master naturalist group before. And I honestly learned so much from our members that had been there for years. So I don't know if you have anyone like that too, but I would just kind of ask ones that had been there for, we actually have someone, I don't know, 20 years. Just different training classes throughout the years and what they liked about it or didn't like about it. And I learned a lot from them. The CMOP is also great. Master Naturalist does a great job as far as outlining everything. Their website is awesome. So you should just kind of go and so much out there for you, just to kind of get you caught up on everything. But it's great that you have a resource there too to help you as far as I forgot. Melanie? Yeah.
Thank you. That's all just encouraging.
Since this is kind of on the topic and we saw some in the chat as well, are there any chapters that do have some kind of chapter local to your chapter succession plan for your positions to either give to the next person or they shadow you for say 6 months or anything like that? And have you seen any success with that if you do have that?
For my
In my
chapter, I'm in the South Texas chapter. I am working under the training director who's planning on leaving next year. And so this will be her last class. And so she has me working along with her. So when she's gone, I've already seen everything. And I feel like that's going to be a big help for me. I've been a part of the training committee as well for the past 2 years. And so and she's very open with her communication to all our sites for our field trips and stuff. And so I think that's been the biggest, the biggest advantage is just the openness she is with the communication. And we meet occasionally to sit down these field trips where we want to go, when we want to do them, and what dates. And we do it as a team. Like, so all the, I guess the chapter, I think Midcoast that have the ambassadors, maybe that's kind of basically like a committee, because all the trainers will come out, we'll have the training meeting, and I'll agree on how many sites we're gonna do and all that stuff. We just do it as a whole versus one person just doing it. And she's they're setting me up for success. I feel like having me do it with her for this year.
In my chapter, we do not have a formal stewardship program on who is going to succeed you when you decide that you can't do it again. But I have always tried to work with my people and find who's really, really interested in the training position. And I was very fortunate that as a result, when I became ill and had to step out for close to a year, the person that I was hoping would be interested took over and has done a wonderful job. And so we're now co-directors, and hopefully we can train another person in the future that will also be trying to come into the pipeline and give a lot of continuity.
One thing we did 4 years ago when I committee, the person that was the trainer had been president of the chapter for several years and was phenomenal. And she was been with the committee and did, and no possible way that you could come in and do we that. Immediately had a committee of like 6 people, and with her and wrote out sort of a month by month, these are the things we this month, these are the things we have to do next month, and we call it our checklist for success. And every year we go back and we update it and add things to it. Have one Google Drive word and trying to follow up how to do everything, but did it all by herself and having a succession of people.
Like we had a lot of great conversation this time. I see that we have just 1 minute left, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of wind this down. We almost made it through all the questions on the slides this time, so that's pretty impressive. The last couple of times we barely made it through. But I will be pulling the chat for this, and I know I've seen some other questions come in throughout this. So look out for those when we do our October training director roundtable. And again, that will be recorded and added to the website as well. But thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for your inputs, and be on the lookout for this recording and the chat and the slides on our Naturalist News page, probably by tomorrow. And have a great day. If you have any questions that you really want to make sure get covered at the October roundtable, feel free to email me those as well.
Thanks, everyone.